Oh, hi. It's Rosie from the Actors Conference. I'm here to bring on and talk with my good friend Paul Berry. Now, I tried to do this earlier on the Actors Conference page, so give me a second. Let me find Paul, invite him on, and we're just going to have a quick chit-chat about, what he does, how he got into the business, and all that good stuff. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to just get a hold of him and see what he's doing. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for him to come on live, I showed you guys earlier on my page our vision board, and what I created with a friend of mine was my own vision board on what I'd like to do with my goals, things that would I'd like to bring into fruition in my life. So what I have put together is this vision board, and it's a continuous work, as kind of like this, wish list. And I thought, it'd be really fun to put something together in the studio. So for those of you who come to the studio and take workshops, doing retreats, giving your own workshops, I put this up, and it's going to be a work in progress as well. So you can always put your own desire of what you'd like to have happen here at the studio. And I want this to be a really great place where community comes together and work together and, create something that's never been created before in our industry. So anyway, I'm still waiting for Paul Berry to come on board, and let's see if I can just tag him. And if anybody has any questions, let's see. Nope, I don't see. Yeah, I see a bunch of guest requests, which would be tons of fun to get you guys on board. But I don't know if I can. Who we had this weekend was George Gallagher. I talk about him a lot, and I think a couple of weeks ago we had this Facebook Live. I see Paul. Paul is now watching and waving, and if he can join us, that'd be really great. But we have an ongoing class with George Gallagher that happened this last Sunday, and coming back on July 15th, which is a Sunday. He comes back on Sundays, and July 22nd. So that link is up, and if you'd like to register, if you'd like to learn more, you can just private message me, and I'll get you in touch with George, or I can answer any of your questions. What else do we have going on? At the end of the month, we have a casting director workshop. We have a coach coming up. His name is Jeff Hardwick, and that will be up soon later today, where you guys and girls can learn more about Jeff Hardwick and see if it's something that you'd want to do. It'll be a short workshop between 1 and 5. He's going to come coach some narrative scripts. He's also going to talk about the business down in LA. He's also going to give some information about commercials. Now, this was something interesting. I had a chit chat with him last night about commercial work, and there's quite a lot of secrets there that I'd like to open up and give us an opportunity to really go out and book. But it's a mystery. He said something very interesting last night about you wouldn't go and audition the same way you would audition for a musical as you would for a feature film for, let's say, Steven Spielberg. Two entirely different kinds of auditions, right? And I mean, it sounded so obvious, but you know what? It's true. You go out for a commercial, a national commercial, and it's not the same kind of audition as you would go out for a play. So there are different techniques that apply. There are different ways of working. There are different, little snippets that you could, tools and that you could utilize in booking a commercial. But anyway, that is, he's just going to talk about that for a little bit in the workshop. But also, maybe somewhere down the line, we can get him back up here to do a longer, more advanced commercial workshop, because that's something that we don't get up here in the Bay Area. So keep a lookout for that. Anyway, hey, Paul, if you can join us, jump on in. If you're having problems jumping in, make a note. And Eduardo, make a note. I'm reading all these comments and they're making me laugh. Make a note and I can see what he says he's here, but there should be an invitation. And if you click on the invitation, you can join us. But my dear friend Eduardo says, I audition the same way every time, laugh out loud. And Eduardo, he's a stand-up comic. He does a lot of comedy around the Bay Area. And how do I join? You join by clicking the invitation. Let me see if I can send it to you again. Let's see, Paul. Okay, allow your viewers to request to join you as a guest in your broadcast. Okay, your viewers, which are Paul. For some reason, it's not letting me add you as a guest here on that area. But recently invited, it says that I already invited you. Let's see. I did send him an invite. How do you join live? Well, well, this is a bust, isn't it, Paul? So he's going to be coming up July, I almost said December, July 14th and 15th. Actually, July 13th, 14th, and 15th, where we will be getting together and working on some projects up here with a small group of actors. And if you'd like to learn more about that, we have an event that's on our Actors Conference page, where you could see that and learn more about it. And what we will be doing as we go in the next couple of weeks, you will see some projects that we had done together. We specifically created these scenes where Paul had wrote them and directed them and worked with our actors who registered for this demo reel retreat back in April and in December, where he was able to, and I was able to produce them, working on the crew end, and create these really interesting, fun developmental scenes where people get to go and utilize the finished products in their reels if they'd like to. So it's a lot of fun. You learn a lot. You learn camera acting. You also learn a lot about film direction on set, a lot of terminology. You also get to, he has to click on the invite. That's what I read from Mr. Gallagher. Thank you, George. And he says he loves the scene he directed with Nina and me. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. I'm all reading this out loud. No, should I jump on there? Yes, you should jump on here, Paul. And it was, so anyway, going back to the weekend prior in April, we're going to repeat this in July in a couple of weeks. And it's a huge learning experience. You know, sometimes you just learn by doing and getting on board. And this is one of those events where you just get in and you just do it. And nothing compares. You know, I mean, I'm a big... what's the word, consumer of knowledge. So I like to do a lot of things in class before I dare myself to go out and do it. Yes, that's me. I'm a huge consumer of classes. Like, I have books and books and books and books and books. And I have videos and videos of all sorts of how to do stuff. But, you know, just kicking my butt to get out and do it is ultimately what I have to drive myself to do. And so that's what this retreat is designed to do. And everybody gets to see what their end product is. So it's a really great opportunity. There's a couple spots left if anybody's interested. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know. So, you know, maybe... I'm going to give Paul another minute or two. If anybody has any questions, they can type in. I'll answer them. You can only do live from a phone. I am on my phone. Can't you see? It's up this way. It's not this way, because last time I did this way, I was sideways. Just requested. Oh, I see you. You just requested. Let's add you on. Add me. There we go. And it's all about the lighting. Do you see the lighting? Anyway,
Jeez, come on,
oh my gosh,
please.
it's like magic. He is on.
Oh my goodness gracious me. Let me turn off that so I don't get the feedback.
Oh no, I was the one that suffered. I was on here all by myself. It had to be
I
entertaining.
know you're doing such a wonderful job too. I was starting to transcribe so that I could make it into a movie one day.
Thank you. Um,
We could do
do I
this
get
as
to
a
star in
thing.
it?
Yeah, but well, you have to audition, but you know, you'll
Oh,
be in with a good chance.
of course. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed. Oh my gosh.
Boy, oh boy. So here we are. So now I'm going to be doing like the Requiem for a Dream kind of steady cam sort of thing, chest cam. But good, that was fascinating. I was listening to what you were saying, but I was freaking out about looking like the dumbest person on the planet, even though I'm quite technologically literate. I just have never done this before, but now I have.
Well,
It'll be brilliant from now
it's
on.
it's a new feature, right? And so, we all like gotta kind of make our way through these new features, but it's cool. You're in LA and I'm here in the Bay Area. Like
It's
I'm
very cool.
Yeah.
Everyone gets one chance to screw stuff up. So, hey Kylie, how are you? Everyone gets a chance to screw something up. I noticed Facebook's now trying to push their pimp out their watch parties. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that at all.
Where you basically just put all of your videos up there and you add them to the list and you all sit there and eat popcorn and watch them together from around the world.
Oh,
Maybe you can take a bunch of your videos and you can put them up and have a watch party and sit there and people can request which ones they want to see next and people can discuss them as they go. Hey, Carl, as they're going. So yeah, that might be fun.
wow, that's
Hey,
really interesting.
Emily,
You know
how are
what I
you?
learned? That you could actually upload your 360 video on Facebook too, and your panoramic pictures, and people can just like scroll a little bit and see it all.
I'm sure this is fascinating for people. I'm sure this is fascinating for everybody listening. Maybe we should move on to
Oh,
something
what we were
else.
supposed to talk about? Oh.
Oh yeah, no, just everyone's just eavesdropping to an interesting conversation. But cool, yeah, very cool to hear you talking about what's been going on with your oh, you've even got people in the background. Is that Sanji?
Oh yeah, hi Sanji. That's
Hey Sanji, how are
Sanji
you?
right there. She's going to be working with us in a couple
Hello.
weeks, and she's working really hard putting planning for us and getting our locations and doing the itinerary and just organizing. Yeah, that's her.
And big shout out to Angelica, who's probably editing right now, but she's been
Yeah,
doing a phenomenal job. And Mason's been helping out as well. And Jason, who started with the editing process. So we've had a lot of people finishing this off for us. And by the end of the week, everybody will have their stuff. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. I'm really excited, and we'll be able to let some of them be published, and that way everybody can get an idea of what we do together, you and I.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then what
that's
is
not
it?
the only thing we do together, but
2 weeks? No, well, the only thing we can talk about in public. So what, we're 2 weeks away now from shooting the next lot, which is very cool. The scripts are going out. I'll be getting the scripts out in a couple of days
mhm.
for everybody, so that's awesome. I don't know for a lot of people that may be watching, whether they know the process that we go through, where people fill in the form that I have, which has
Yeah,
quite detailed questions about the kinds of genres and conflicts and
yeah,
styles and stuff they're after.
hmm,
So, and then pairing people up and writing them and so on. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But
yeah,
hopefully within a couple of days, they'll be out. And then for anyone who hasn't already heard about what we do, then we have the day before the shoots, which is our rehearsal day. And then everybody's welcome who's shooting to come along and be there while we're shooting everybody's scenes. So I can also teach them on the day about on-set protocol and acting techniques and camera techniques and stuff while they're actually shooting.
yeah.
Hopefully.
I learned. I'm still learning, but like this process and what you just explained, um, you know, everything's very specific, and everything that's done in film and TV, it's all very specific. The story is told specifically about one, or one story and all the characters that are around it. And so when we as actors want to put something together that shows off our unique qualities and our skills, um, they those pieces are they identify who we are. And so when someone's looking out to get a professional demo reel done, I think in the beginning I didn't realize how specific things need to be in order to create and pull off a piece of material that really reflects the individual. So,
Yeah.
you know, I seen you work and stuff was really interesting. Like, and when you put that survey together, and I had a chance to go through it and answer, I was like, wow, this is quite a lot of information. I wonder how, you know, you actually pull that off, you know? And then I really thought about it after I got my scene. I go, there are some things that I even missed in like the first few reads. And the more I read it and did it and worked it off the page with, hey, George, you caught that? I was able to understand like the magnitude of you know the combined work that you do, you know, it was executed in the way that only when we did it and we filmed it did I understand, yes, that came through exactly how you wrote it. So to
Oh,
trust
great.
your
Thank you.
writing, to trust your direction, and trust the whole process, you know, it was really interesting as an actor. Then as a producer, that was entirely different. I was like, oh shit. I mean, there's a
Oh, well,
lot of other
thank
stuff.
you. Well, thank you. We'll take a quick moment to say hi to AJ, who was one of the people too that was in the last round or the first round? The
He was in the
first round.
first round. Yeah.
In the
Yeah. They're
very
still
first
rooting
round.
for
Hey,
you, AJ, if you want to come on board.
and hi
Yeah.
to Rob and Jamie and Emily's back again. Everybody, Tanya, Colette, hi.
Hi, Colette.
So yeah, like when we started, when my business partner and I started Showreels Australia 10 years ago now, I just sent out a thing for its
Wow.
10 birthday this year. We're 10 years old in 2018. So when we started, we weren't writing original scenes back then, but I was spending a lot of time watching DVDs and TV shows and films, largely the really great ones, but they were kind of more obscure or they were older or whatever. And I was taking them, transcribing them, and tweaking them. So they were great scenes, but you wouldn't necessarily know they were from 6 Feet Under or wherever they were from. And then it just got to the point where people were just recycling our scenes constantly, or they were doing famous scenes all the time. So I just said, right, from now on, we're just only doing totally brand new. And John, hey, we're just doing totally brand new scenes. And I had a bunch of other writers and myself, we would write them. But for the last probably 2.5, 3 years, I've just written all the scenes myself because it just doesn't have to go through another brain. It just goes straight through from their form to mine. But it is really interesting, and it's lovely when you hear people read the scenes and go, "Oh my God, how did you know me so well?" And I'm like, "Well, you did fill in a great deal of information
Information.
on a
Yeah.
form about what you wanted." But what I love the most about it is that when you fill in that very specific form, what happens is people don't even realize how unclear they are about what they want
Mhm.
before they fill in the form. Once they've filled in the form, they now have a crystal clarity. So when I write the scenes, I almost rarely need to rewrite them. Whereas before, I would give them an Academy Award winning or a Golden Globe winning or some award winning show, script from a show or a film. And because I didn't tell them what it was from, they would say, yeah, I like it, but I don't love it. Whereas now, if I write it specifically for them, they love it and they go, "Oh my God, this is so me." And it's
Yeah.
just showed me how important it was to make sure that, as you said, what you are going to put into your demo reel, or in Australia, in the UK, your show reel, is so specifically, uniquely you, that when they see it, they don't just see that you're a good actor. That's great, but that's a given. Everything should show that you're a good actor.
Yeah.
But they see exactly why they should cast you as opposed to anybody else that they could cast.
Mhm.
And that's been the challenge over the years, but that's been the satisfaction over the years that now we've shot almost 1,000 scenes in Australia and here, LA, San Francisco, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide,
Wow.
and potentially other places.
Wow.
And without doubt, I mean, there are other places that have shot like probably 1,000, 15-second scenes in LA, but to shoot 90 to 90 second to 3 minute scenes in two countries in five different, six different cities has been a really cool experience. Anyway, I'm going on, but it's been a really cool experience to be able to do that and experience how different ways different people work in different countries and different expectations they have and all of that. So anyway, that comes from the script stage process, which I'm almost finished now for the next round in the next couple of weeks.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
you know, when we first started working together, I felt really challenged. when it came to memorization. And one of the, like, um, one of my friends, Anita, who introduced us together, she mentioned this is what like you do. This is like your thing. And so, you know, I came into your workshop thinking, okay, I've tried everything. Um, Show me again. I need something because I really thought, you know, I would make a joke, say I have early Alzheimer's. Um, but why don't you talk about your memorization and what you like
Yeah.
to work
Well,
on,
that's
just like your introductory thing that brings us all in because we all need this skill.
what's been my fascination over the years is not just teaching or doing or writing or directing, not just doing what other people are already doing. So there are, and with, the greatest respect for Meisner teaching, there are so many people teaching Meisner that as awesome that as it is, I just don't see the point of me contributing yet another Meisner class to the world. So other people are much, much better at it than I am. So I go, cool. Well, I've always had that thing of if everyone's going that way, I'm going to go that way because I might find something that take the road less traveled. So what was funny was 24 years ago, I picked up a little called How to Build a Superpower Memory by a guy called Harry Lorraine. And I remember reading it
Oh
thinking it was
no, are we
almost like
losing? Is it just me? Oh,
I'm still here. Are
okay.
you?
You picked up a little book
Maybe it's
24
just
years ago.
is it me? Um,
I can still
is
see you
this
now.
Paul? AJ's asking, is this Paul Barry's last time to film screenwrite for a while? I'm not retiring just yet. Thankfully I'm in good health, AJ. But I think we are going to take a little bit of a hiatus for a little while. So it would probably be the end of the year would be the next time we do this. So if you want something before the end of the year, now would be the time to jump in. But we'll keep you posted along the way.
But this is
But
also a
anyway,
really great experience, just overall, just to work with you and understand a
oh
lot of
yeah.
different things about filmmaking. But going back to your the thing that you did that you went the other way with, as far as teaching.
Oh, that's right. So Harry Lorraine was the guy who did the memory thing. So what I did, this was when I was back at NIDA, and I would just as a party trick just do memory games with people, and I came up with a list of colors back then, which was well, actually I came up with a random list of 10 items, objects, and numbers on a list, and it was one bun, Bible, two shoe, anthrax, three tree, six bananas, four door, the number 18, and so on. And I haven't done this for 2 years probably, but I taught it for years and years and years, what's called PEG memory system. And it used to just be a party trick, and I would know all of this stuff while I was teaching, and people were stammering and staggering over their lines, and they couldn't actually recall them. And I had this memory stuff, but I wasn't putting two and two together. Like I wasn't actually, oh, hey, Karina, hey. I wasn't for some reason for years I wasn't putting together memory and memorizing lines. I was like, but I've always known how to memorize lines. Why do I need memory techniques to help me memorize lines? Well, the point is, what I've discovered over the years is most actors know their lines. The problem is, where they fall down is in between the lines, the connection between the lines. So no one ever goes to be or like you generally go to be or not to be, that is the question. And then you go, line. So you generally don't forget halfway through a line. By the time you start a line, generally actors finish it. But I say every piece of memory is simply linking things together. So you take one
Uh-huh.
key word or phrase or action, and that's a link. And then you just simply link that to another key word or phrase or action. So if you want to remember the colors green, blue, red, orange, yellow, purple, black, gray, pink, indigo, gold, and ivory, I take the color green, make it into the Incredible Hulk, and the Incredible. And when I tell you that story a couple of times, you'll remember all the colors. And then the fun thing is you will also remember the colors, not just forward, but you will remember the colors backwards as well. And
Oh.
then I was like, well, if you can remember that with just colors and a shopping list of stuff, then you can also remember that with dialogue, because dialogue is just a series of links of keywords, phrases, actions. It's a series of subjects, objects, verbs. These are all just links in a chain. So where you fall apart is where there's a weak link. And as we know, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So you can actually know every single link in a scene, but two of them just aren't linked together. And so that's the problem. That's why actors say, I knew this at home. Of course you did. You knew it all at home. But when we pulled on the chain, we yanked on the chain, what happened was the thing fell apart because it wasn't connected together properly.
Mm.
So what I do is rather than teach people how to learn all their lines, they already know all of their lines. I teach them how to make sure that they are all properly linked together and under pressure, they don't come apart. And that's the thing that took me 15 years to work out how to do properly
Wow.
with actors. And that's why, that's why I think uh, when you make make learning lines unconscious rather than conscious,
Uh-huh.
you can learn lines perfectly and still not sound like a robot. A lot of people have a problem that they think they have a problem that if you learn the lines perfectly, then what happens is you're going to sound like you're an automaton. But in my experience, being a reader for over a decade in Australia for film, TV castings, almost nobody ever knew their lines perfectly, and they still sounded like robots. So the people I teach who know their lines perfectly know them perfectly, but don't sound like robots. So I know that it's possible to say lines exactly as they are on the page. And
Mhm.
the story I love to tell is Christopher Walken is someone that everybody talks about as, oh, he improvises and he makes it up. Well, no, he hasn't done that for over 20 years. He in fact says, if I don't know my lines perfectly, I don't know what I'm doing. And Tarantino, when way back in True Romance, which was probably now 23 years ago, Tarantino spoke of Christopher Walken and said he was so nervous about his own writing because Chris Walken was saying it word for word, punctuation for punctuation. And if it was terrible in the end, Tarantino said it has to be my fault because he's saying my words exactly as they are on the page.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and there's only one moment there where he and Robert Duvall actually go off script, which is a great moment as well. But the rest of it is not terrible because they're on script. So for me, I say there are some projects where you approximate your lines.
Hmm.
Something like Friday Night Lights is a great example of that. And other ones, you need to know them perfectly, especially in the commercial world, especially in procedural drama,
Hmm.
especially in um, uh, TV where they've got someone sitting there in the legal department is saying, I'm sorry, you can't say that because that's another network or that's a copyright issue or that's something else. So I think if you learn your lines perfectly, that means you can improvise or you can do them perfectly. If you only get them approximated, then on the day when someone says you need to get them perfectly, you just won't be able to. That's my whole theory.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So there you go.
Well,
I hope I'm
wonderful.
not freezing here. Sometimes it looks like I'm freezing and my phone is burning in my hand. So I don't know whether it's going to die
No,
soon. But
you're perfectly fine. No, this is great.
okay,
This is
good.
really great information, and
Oh,
you
by the
know,
way, Emily's saying haha, I knew the lines really well in the shower. Well, Emily, maybe next time we can write you a scene in the shower, and that way you'll never never forget your lines. And I
yeah.
wasn't talking specifically about you, Emily. You just drew attention to yourself there. I wasn't talking specifically about you when I said I knew these at home.
um, no, I understand a lot of the just trusting the script and the words. You know, I was a big offender. I still am a big offender, but really just um, honoring the written work and what that's all about, and utilizing everything that's given, you know, instead of trying to make it up. So it really is important to learn the lines and all that, because
Well, I think, and if George is still here, I'd love to know what he thinks about this because of the whole work that he does, the taking it off the page work, which I've always tried to do with people, and I can never be as great as the master himself. But I'd be interested to know how much George encourages that the lines are important exactly as they are written, or if it's really you take your current impression of that line, your feeling of that line, and you, yeah, oh, great, excellent. Well, then you can tell us, George. So do you teach that it's important to get the intention and the feeling first, right? And then the lines will come perfectly after that, if they need to? Exactly. I guess that's from before. But yeah, so I don't think people need to get their lines perfectly exactly like changing the lines. Yeah, cool. Because I think that for me, the line as a writer, it's not like I get offended by both. Yeah, absolutely. As a writer, it's not like I get offended by people not saying the lines perfectly. It's just that I feel frustrated because I'm trying to communicate something with particular words, with particular
Yeah,
punctuation.
yeah,
And
I
when the
agree.
person misses that point, I don't blame them. But when they say to me, no, that's just how I felt I wanted to do it, I go, but that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There is a difference between uh, okay, comma, let's go, and okay, period. Let's go, period. They're two very different psychologies. Sometimes they're two different characters. Sometimes they're a completely different idiom. And I've always believed if you go to the dialogue, as difficult as it is, it's like pouring yourself into a jelly mold that does not suit you. But the more you get yourself into that mold, the more you are able to transform yourself into another character. If you keep trying to transform the jelly mold into you, then it'll be real, it'll be natural, but you'll never play another character. And there's no way Daniel Day-Lewis could have done My Left Foot if he didn't pour himself uncomfortably at first
yeah,
into the jelly mold of a guy who could only feed himself with his feet. I mean, there's no way Tom Cruise could turn that character into Tom Cruise. There's, you have to
yeah,
go to that character, and that's why Daniel Day-Lewis was able to do that. So obviously in demo reels and show reels, we don't have the opportunity to have a year of getting people into character and completely transforming them. But I do like to challenge people and make them, rather than going upstream or completely against stream, I love cutting across stream to challenge the actors. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's still them. So George says, I find English actors feel or think on the line and Americans before. I think that if the actor is on his instincts, it will change. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Hey, Jenna. So all the while, there's surprising people. This must be on my feed on my wall too. All these
yeah.
people that I wouldn't imagine would be on this acting feed are here. But anyway, yeah. So, but I'm also interested to anyone else that's here that's watching about lines. How much do you guys? I guess you could give us like a 1 to 10. How much you think it's important to learn your lines? 10 being 100% perfectly, 0 being not at all. So you might say 5, half and half. You might say 8. You might say 1. Not what you think you can do, but how important you think it is in terms of getting the lines right, but also coming with some sort of flexibility and openness. So if you're out there and you're interested in expressing your opinion on that, 1 to 10. I think the writer did all the work, and you need to let it really provoke something in you, allowing it to do so, says George. Yeah, great, man. Awesome. I'd love to do your class. I think changing the
That would
lines
be
is
a
a form
fun
of hiding.
weekend. Have everybody just here. Be very
Dude,
explicit.
dude, bang on, bang on. If I was that way inclined, I'd be taking you out on a date after all of this. We're so in tune. 15. DJ says 15, I get more confidence about my character. Okay, cool. So over and above the 100%, he does 150%.
Yeah,
Um,
the more I grow and I work, and the more I am in class and I'm learning from all these different great coaches, I do believe it's uh, trusting what's given to me, and allows me to do my work better. But and I do have to grow. I do have to fit into not be just myself, but do fit in the mold and what's being communicated. So
I think that it's also I do believe, and this is a big call, but I do believe that people are getting less and less adept at reading over time because we have a real shorthand with text, because everything's sort of going more into video and pictures and stuff online, because everything's very, very quick. Um, uh, Kirk, hey
Kirk has
Kirk, how are you?
something, yeah. Says, what
He
would
says,
you
hi
say
guys. Well,
regarding someone like David Mamet, who's very specific about his lines being done exactly as they are written?
Yeah, that's interesting. And because I've always loved Mamet's writing, but I find that Mamet can sometimes be a bit like Pinter, where I performed Pinter years ago, and I pulled out of the play because I felt like there was nothing I could do with his writing. Like I felt like I was just kind of a sock puppet that his hand was up my butt, kind of moving me around. It was so perfectly musical that if I didn't do it exactly as it was, then sorry, I was getting a message from someone telling me they're not coming to class. Okay, no worries. We'll jump on now. We'll do it here. And I find I found with Pinter, but this was way back. I found that I didn't feel like I had enough flexibility. These days, I would say, like doing a beautiful performing your own I don't know the word rendition of a Mozart piece note for note doesn't mean that you can't put yourself into that in a way, put your soul into that in a way that another pianist is not going to. So back then I felt that Mamet and Pinter and Odets and all these different writers that I was like, oh, I'm finding it very, very difficult to bring anything new to this without changing the dialogue. Now I feel like I can say the dialogue exactly as it is, like Chris Walken claims to do anyway, exactly as it is, and bring something new to it. But there is a skill to that, and I think we're being pulled apart in different directions by people like myself saying, "Just learn your fucking lines," and other people saying, "No, no, no, just go for it." And I love the fact that both George and Kirk, and probably many other people, would agree that the most important thing to start with is to make sure that you are connected to the dialogue, to the text, but don't not do the dialogue just because you don't want to. Actually, just to finish up on that, that's one of the funniest things is that many people who say um, you don't have to learn the dialogue perfectly, um, I find can't learn dialogue perfectly. So it's an incredible coincidence that they say you don't have to, but they couldn't. Even if right now they were working with David Mamet as a director and he said you must learn your lines and I'm paying you $20 million, they still couldn't do it. So I don't take the advice of people who can't do it when they say you don't need to do it. I can learn lines perfectly, and I say there are times to do it and times not to do it.
Oh.
But if I couldn't learn lines perfectly and I said, don't worry about it, I don't think I'm the best person to take advice from. So we got more great stuff here from other people, from George saying, love Mamet. His characters do speak very similarly because of his style, but I suppose Sorkin does as well as Pinter.
Yes.
Well, it's what's interesting there, George, is Aaron Sorkin himself said he was asked about his writing and how his characters often sound the same. And I quote, this is brilliant what he said. He goes, well, I guess different speech patterns is not how I differentiate characters. And I was like, what? That isn't that one of the actual isn't that one of the very things that delineates characters? But anyway, at least he doesn't lie about that. He says um, everybody speaks with Sorkin's voice. It's all witty, it's all intelligent, it's all funny, it's all fast paced,
Uh-huh.
and he doesn't pretend it's anything else. I love that. Um, so yeah, there you go.
Well, this is really awesome. Wow, this is a lot of great information.
Does anybody remember what the 12 colors were out there?
Yeah,
Green,
green, blue,
blue.
red, orange.
There you go. And I only said it once, and you got it because of the images of the
Yeah.
Hulk jumping into the blue ocean, splashing red Spider-Man. And when you do these images, all of the images have to be superheroes, I have to say.
Oh,
They
okay.
have to be superheroes. You have to.
You got to
It's
squeeze
just
in
the
Wonder
way it's
Woman.
turned out.
Where's our
It's
Wonder
so
Woman in
funny.
there?
That's all right. You can do a feminist version of it. Yeah, that's fine. Um, no, no, no. But that's if anyone were to take away anything from the memory stuff, I'd say everything is a key. Every key word, phrase, or action is just a link in the chain.
Uh-huh.
Anything that you can see, anything that you can say, anything you can hear can be visualized. And people say, I'm auditory, I'm kinesthetic, I'm not visual. That's just bullshit. Everybody is at least partially visual. So when I say,
Yes.
hey, what did you wear to bed last night? Everyone can either say my Star Wars jammies or I was naked. And partly that's what you were feeling, but that's partly you remember brushing your teeth in the mirror and seeing what you were wearing before you went to bed. So we're partly visual, we're partly auditory, we're partly kinesthetic. But when it comes down to it, when you say to someone, the green Incredible Hulk jumps into the blue ocean, splashes water all over red Spider-Man who spits out an orange. Now, Rosie, say those colors backwards.
Um, orange. Spider-Man is red and
Yep.
coming from the blue ocean, and then the
Yeah.
Green Hulk jumped out.
Yeah. And so like on this list that I do, there's 12 colors, but you can
There's
do it
12
as
colors.
easily. I can do, yeah, 12 colors, and you can do it as easily backwards, even if it was 100 colors, as long as you have connected each of the images visually. So if you have to say to be or not to be, that is the question. You think of two bees, bzzz, and then you imagine spraying them so they are no longer two bees. They are now not two bees. And then they land on this blue question mark on the ground, splat. I know, it's not very nice. But that way, if you find it difficult remembering stuff, you just do it like a kid would. They're just trying to take what you're saying and turning it into something that makes sense to them. That's why we all have these wonderful misheard song lyrics like, excuse me while I kiss this guy. And it's not, it's kiss the sky. It doesn't make sense, but kiss this guy sounds like it's something that would be right. So that's how we remember it. And so we can use that to our advantage when we don't recall it to make those links go together where they normally wouldn't. Because the brain is a memory is just a link. So when we have forgotten, it's still there. We've just unlinked it. And I wrote an article about it once where I was saying, if you were in a restaurant, if I say to you, what did you have for lunch last, what day is today? Tuesday, last Tuesday. And you'd go, oh my God, I don't know. And I'd say, well, hang on, what do you do on Tuesdays? And you might say, oh, actually, I go into the studio Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it must have been Tuesday. Well, Tuesday was the first day of the week. Did I eat out? No, actually, I brought my lunch with me. And if you do this and you sit and you meditate on it, you will remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday simply by using the process of elimination. But what we tend to do is we immediately tell ourselves we can't remember something, and therefore whether you say you can or you can't, you're absolutely right. And then we tattoo onto our brains that our memory is terrible. When all that's happened is it's still there. We've just unlinked it. Now we go back and we link it again. And there's Rick. Hey, Rick. We link it again, and it's now remembered. But I describe it being like Schrodinger's cat. Just because the box is closed doesn't mean the cat is not there, right? And then when you open the cat up and it's dead, it doesn't mean that it was dead when the box was closed. So just because you don't recall what meal you had last Tuesday doesn't mean you've forgotten it. Because as soon as I tell you it was a chicken sandwich, you go, oh yes, which means it was already there. You had just lost the link. So anyway, long way around to say, all I teach people in terms of memory is take everything, break it into component parts, turn it into an image, tell a story of those images, and then practice the story, and then backwards. And then for anyone who thinks, but hang on, I don't want to be thinking about that when I'm acting, you won't. You will think about those images 2, maybe 3 times, and then you'll just know the lines. And you'll be able to say things like, the origin of counterfactual thinking has philosophical roots and can be traced back to early philosophers such as Aristotle and Plato, who pondered the epistemological status of subjunctive suppositions and their non-existent but feasible outcomes, which is one sentence that I teach people in my online memory course. And I teach them by breaking it into bits, turning it into images, telling the story of those images, and people can do it backwards. I haven't, because I haven't done it for 2 years, so I don't want to embarrass myself right now. But when you've just studied it fresh, you can actually even do it backwards if you wanted to. So that's the great thing about memory. It's just everyone has it. It's all there. It's just a link. And because it's unlinked doesn't mean it's forgotten. It just means we've got to find it, like a file on your computer where the shortcut is no longer on the desktop. We just need to find it, label it correctly, and then put a shortcut exactly where we need it so that when we go looking for it again, it's easy to find. And that's what the memory palace is all about. But that's another video. That's another story.
Well, I think they have to take your course on that.
That's
I
right.
still
Oh,
have
oh,
my
you mean the
challenge.
4-week on? You mean the 4-week online memorization,
Yeah.
acting4camera.com/memory?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah, yeah. People could do that, I guess, if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's a great class. I had a really good time doing it in person last July. So anyway, well, thank you so much. This has been really enlightening, and I hope everybody got a chance to enjoy this. And you know, if you have any questions, or if you follow Paul, you can follow him Acting4Camera on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Do you have Instagram?
Yes, acting4Camera, acting
Yeah,
the number 4 camera on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of
all
those
those
things.
fun places. Okay, and if you know, if anybody has any questions about making your demo reel, or this just working with Paul and I, send me a PM. I'd really love to hear from you.
I
Okay.
don't know whether Rick's making a joke here when he says, I have a Mac. Will it work the same way when I talk about memory filing systems? I don't know if he's joking or if he's serious there, but if that's a joke, that's a funny joke. Yes, your memory will be the
That's
same
Rick.
whether you have a Mac or a PC.
He's
Your memory
that's a
will,
joke.
will be the same regardless. But thank you, AJ. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Rosie.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
considering I didn't know how to get on this live thing, I don't know how to get off it. So you're going to have to kick me off, I think.
Okay, bye. We'll see you in a
Bye,
couple weeks.
everybody. See ya.